Welcome to Patilipi's workshop. The other day I had to move my benchtop mill, which is equipped with the Priest Tools Powerlift. Before I lifted the mill with my engine hoist, I lowered the head as far as it would go. After I moved it, the powerlift motor ran, but the mill head would not move anymore. As you will see in the video, it was my own fault. If you have a benchtop mill, I highly recommend the Priest Powerlift. It's available for a number of mills, and I can't imagine going back to hand cranking the head every time I use the mill. So this video is the story of what I did wrong and how I fixed it. As always, I welcome any comments or suggestions you may have. And if you found this video interesting, there are links to my other videos in the description below. So please like and subscribe. Now let's get on with the video. Recently, I had to move my mill over. I had to pick it up with an engine hoist crane and move it over about a foot because it's just too heavy to slide over on the table. And when I do that, I typically lower the head down as far as it'll go so I can put a strap underneath here and lift it up with the engine hoist crane. So I was doing that, and I had installed a Priest Tools Powerlift. And the Powerlift, you can turn this button and it'll raise the head up, or push it down, it'll lower it down. There's a hand crank over here, so you can do it manually as well. I wanted it as low as it could go so I wouldn't have to lift the mill so high. So when I did that, I just cranked it all the way down using this. It worked, it went all the way down, and then it wouldn't go back up anymore. In fact, this is all it does. You push down, you hear the motor go, but nothing happens. Push up, hear the motor go, but nothing happens. That's kind of a problem. And the way it works is this just attaches onto this box, and up here, in this box up here, is a motor and a transmission that's connected into the drive that lifts it up and down. And I have to say, if you have a mill that doesn't have an automatic or a power lift, you really want one, because man, the crank's up high here and it takes a lot of effort to crank it up and down. So of course, the first thing I did was check the manual, and this is the manual for the Priest Tools Powerlift, and mine's specific for the Precision Matthew 728 VT, which is the mill I have. And look at this, under caution, follow these steps. Number 4, do not operate the powerlift near the Z-axis, that's up and down, limits of travel. When approaching these limits, use the manual hand wheel or lever to make final adjustments. Exceeding Z-axis travel while using the powerlift will damage the gearbox and require replacement of the entire gear motor at the owner's expense. And that's exactly what it was. So I called Greg Priest and told him what happened. He said, yep, you broke it. And for $100, he sent me a new one, which we'll look at in a minute. But before we get to that, let's take a look at where the motor fits in on the mill. So we're up at the top of the mill. There's a wheel that gets in the way and the wheel comes off. I've already loosened the nut, but there's just a nut and a washer there. Then this wheel slides off, it's keyed. So that allows me to see where the screws are. So there's 2 little screws on this side, and then there's 2 other screws on this side that I'll take off. Now I've got the 2 screws on the left side off down here, and I've got the screws off on the right side. And at the top here, there's a power cable and a control cable that come in, so I've loosened those screws. So this box then just lifts off, and this is what was added on top when I added the original powerlift. So here's the transmission in this box, and here's the motor in here, and here's the control box. So when I first took the cover off, I removed the motor wires, again the blue one toward me and the brown one away from me. And of course the first thing I want to do is just take out these 4 bolts on either side to take the motor out, but it doesn't work that way because of how it's mounted inside. So I've got to take off the power supply, 2 little screws. And then here's the power supply out of the way. I'll just set it down on there. And then there's 4 screws to take this plate out. So this bottom plate is what the motor's attached to, but the coupler, you have to take this off to get to it. So these are 4mm screws, and I'm a little reluctant. These are the Harbor Freight ones, and those ball ends, I've had them break off. I'm going to use the other end there. Get them all loose. Then I'll go ahead and use the ball end. This has been, I think, the best addition I've done to my mill, because you're always reaching up really high to crank it. Okay, all the bolts are the same length, so that's good. Now let's see. There we go. That's all there is to it. So what I have to do now is I'll take it to the bench, and I hope I still have the spacers that came with it, so you know exactly how high to make this, but I'll measure it if I can't find the spacers. So I'll meet you back at the bench. And by the way, here's what it looks like inside. I'm going to re-grease all that. So this is just the coupler that couples to the coupler we added inside there when I installed it. This should be the replacement powerlift motor. Here it is. So it looks like it just comes straight from a company. He didn't manufacture this. He just bought it and stuck it in. Anyway, he sells these for about $100. So the set screw looks like it's 3 millimeters. Yeah, and it wasn't on there real tight. Of course, I was the one that put it on there. So now we can go ahead and take the screws out to replace the motor. And these are like 7/64 screws. They're threaded, and there's a washer on each one. So this is the old one. I'm going to write old just in case. And here's the new one. And the shafts are identical, it looks like, in length. By the way, if you want to learn about this particular mill, Precision Master 728 VT, Blondie Hacks is the best resource. I know she has had this mill for a while. I use her when I'm learning how to do different processes on here because she's just done an extraordinary set on this. But these weren't really tight. I'm just going to snug them down. I don't want to break anything. They're small screws. So now we're ready to put this back on, the coupler. So here's my shim, my unofficial shim. And I want the nut to go to the flat side, so I'm going to flip it over. So here's the flat side. That's where I want the Allen screw to connect, about there. And again, these cheap Harbor Freight Allen wrenches, you have to be careful. The ball end, don't put a lot of force on those because I've had those snap off irretrievably into things. So when I'm loosening something, I use the short end because that doesn't have the ball. And once I get it loose, then I use this other end. So now we can take the shim out. And if you look, it's a couple of millimeters sticking out just like before. So now we'll go back to the mill and just install this all back in. So I finished greasing the 2 gears in there with my red and tacky grease just in case. And now we're ready to assemble the rest of this. So here's the new motor on the transmission. And the only thing is the coupler here. It just has to mesh with the coupler down there. And that's just a matter of getting it close as you're setting it in. It goes this way because the power supply sits there. So let's just close and we can just wiggle this around until everything settles in. There it goes. And it's lining up with all the holes. A little bit disconcerting at first because this side was hanging over and this side wasn't. It seemed like it should go further over that way, but that wasn't the case. So now I can put these screws back in. So I'm just going to screw these down, get them hand tight, the long end here, snug anyway. And again, I don't think these need to be super tight, but you don't want them to go away either, come off either. So the ones in the back are countersunk because that's where the power supply goes. The ones in the front are not. So again, tightening up, I go to the short end of this. It doesn't have that ball. I guess someday I'll have to spring for a non-Harbor Freight set. Okay, I think that's good. So now let's just pop the power supply back on. That's easy enough. 2 little tiny screws, just one on each side. That's good and tight. And I'm just going to check the motor gearbox. Okay, so the red one goes in the back and the blue one goes in the front. For some reason, the connector just slipped down inside. I was able to grab it by the little nubbin that was sticking out and pull it up, and you can see that it had just pushed itself in for some reason. So I'm going to hold it with the pliers while I put it on. I think that's probably good. So I'll just set the box in place for now. Screw it on later. Up it goes. And down it goes. So I'm just going to put those 4 little screws in to get the housing on there and straighten out the wires, and we're done. I've got everything back together. I put this wheel back on, manual wheel. I put a label here just to remind myself, only use manual at extreme high or low Z axes. Hopefully that'll save me $100 next time I have to move this thing. I did a little bit of cable management here, a couple of zip ties. So it's all looking pretty good. And of course, I can't help but want to know what's going on and what broke in the transmission since the motor works. So I'm going to try to take this apart. I'm going to guess there's a plastic gear in there. But let's see. It is packed with grease. Holy crap. I'm going to get my power supply and come back and see what happens when I apply 12 volts to the motor. So I got some of the grease out and the motor works. You can see it turning right there. And this is the gear that's supposed to go on the motor, and it's plastic. And that's what broke. And it transfers to this wheel here and to these other wheels. So it was this one plastic wheel that was the weak side of this whole thing. So this is definitely plastic. The wheel it connects to is metal. Might be sintered metal, but nonetheless it's metal. All the other wheels are metal. Do you think this one plastic gear was a safety feature to protect the motor or maybe prevent overheating? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm sure somebody makes that gear somewhere, but I have no idea how to find out. Anyway, now we know what happened. So to wrap things up, it was a relatively simple fix, and I received the replacement part from Priest Tools within 3 or 4 days, and I put a note on the mill head to remind me not to make that same mistake again. I've put links to the sites I mentioned in this video below. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're interested in similar videos, please like and subscribe. Bye.